All right, we're recording now. So, all right, welcome guys. For all of you out there, I did put the Nearpod link in the chat. Looks like we got a couple more people that are coming. Hopefully some more people get on the Nearpod. That would be nice. Okay. Well, hopefully everybody's had a good week so far. And you did okay in the first unit. First off, let me just let you know that this lesson is being recorded for learning purposes. Remember virtual expectations I have in the class, right? Follow along with the Nearpod lesson, use the chat tools respectfully and appropriately, and also respond to questions and instructions the first time. Okay, we're going to go over today. I like this. It's all about educational theories, okay? So they kind of correlate a little bit with like child development stuff as well. So to me, it's pretty interesting. It's kind of a little bit of like psychology into those things. There's two main ones that they want us to focus on. And so when we get to those ones, I'll kind of let you know. I have a video for each of them, but that's will be kind of where we're at. But before I jump into the lesson, let me just go into the course real quick. So just remember, I will post the recording right here to the course announcements. And then I'll also post it in the specific unit too. So if you go into the calendar right here, you'll see live classes, of course, are every Thursday. And then I give you like a week to do the assignment. And then I'll put in zeros on there. I'll keep putting out the content and stuff like that. One thing I want to make you guys aware of, that we have what's called the skill cert test on the 16th. It's right before the end of the block. Okay. So what that is, it's a test where we go into a room, and it's a test that you can go and you can actually get a certificate basically saying that you understand the content and all that kind of stuff. And it's put out by the state. So there's one for Utah Virtual Academy that we'll send out to you. And there's one for there. And then also, if you have done this and you make it to graduation at Utah Virtual, we actually have little things that you wear at graduation and stuff like that to show that you're a CTE concentrator. Okay. So that's part of this right here. So I'd love for you guys to come and join me that day. I'll tell you more about it as it comes up, but just put on your calendars that the skill cert test will be the 16th at the same time we usually would have class. Okay. So that is that. Okay. Today we're going to be in unit 2. We have our lesson 2 quiz and then our lesson 2 assignment. And I will go over each of those with you. For some of you, I'm just going to hop back to unit 1. Some of you didn't do as well as you would have liked on the quiz 1. That is set up so you can take it as many times as you like. Okay. And if you go to my recording, and I think it's around minute 24, I go over this quiz in class. So you should be able to get a really good score on it. Okay. All you got to do is go back there, watch a little bit of that recording, and then I give you, I think, enough hints that you will be good there. Okay. All right. Any questions on that, where we need to be in the course right now? Any of those things? Okay. No worries. All right. For those of you just jumped in, I'm putting in the chat once again our Nearpod link. And we're going to go over these educational theories here. Okay. So first off, pretty colorful slide, I know. What is a theory? Okay. It's to guide their questions, research, and interpretation of data, developmental scholars, constructs, theories. A theory is an organized system of principles and explanations for a particular phenomenon. Okay. So, you'll learn like different theories. It's a way of looking at things for a perspective. And so we're going to go over the 7 different categories here of child development and education. There's biological theories, behaviorism and social learning theories, psychodynamic theories, cognitive development theories, cognitive process theories, social cultural theories, and then developmental system theories. There's a lot. And so that's what a lot of these researchers, if you want to get a PhD and stuff like that, you're probably going to be researching in some type of theory. In education or psychology, or if you're interested in something else like the hard sciences, like I have a really good professor at UVU that's a chemistry professor, right? And he conducts research in those things, okay? But they have different theories that we're working on. So we're going to go over kind of some of those theories. So we're going to briefly go over these 7, and then I'm going to hone down on some of the ones in education that are the most, I would say, prominent that you'd probably hear about. And that would probably be on the skill cert test. Okay, so biological, okay? These theories focus on genetic factors, physiological structures and function of the body, and basically how a child will adapt and survive in their environment. Here are some of the known theorists for that, like Charles Darwin, Marie Montessori. Those are some of the big ones in this one. The emphasis is kind of on nature in this biological one. The next one is behaviorism and social learning theories. B.F. Skinner, John Watson, Ian Padlove, Baer. I focus a lot. I'm a behaviorist. So people have a lot of, when you're looking at these theories, you usually lean to one or two of these or another. And so I actually lean more to behaviorism. That's my, I guess, focus that I like to look at things from this perspective. But this theory is focused on environmental stimuli and learning processes that lead to behavioral change. When a child acts, the environment responds with a reward or punishment, okay? The emphasis is on nurture. And so we'll go over in more of this of B.F. Skinner stuff in conditioning. So psychodynamic, the theorists focus on how family and society affect how children control and express intrinsical urges, such as sexuality and aggressiveness. Social relationships affect children's basic trust in others and identity of themselves and individuals, okay? So theorists here like Sigmund Freud, Erik Erikson are the big ones there. Cognitive development theories. This theory believes that children think they undergo transformations towards increasingly abstract and systematic patterns. It may depend on early experiences. Children can eventually see single events from several valid points of view, okay? Jean Piaget is a big one on here. Also Kohlberg. And so one of the assignments, your assignment here is you're going to like look at some of these theories in more detail and kind of see which one you think is the best, that you like the best, right? There's no really right or wrong one. Cognitive processes, the theorists focus on nature and nurture. Children are born with the basic capacity to perceive, interpret, and remember information. Those capacities change with brain maturation, experience, and reflection, okay? And so this is just a brief overview of some of these ones. The biggest one in here, I believe, is Robert Sigler. I've heard of him before. Henry Wellman. Social cultural theory, with emphasis on nurture, theorists believe all children will naturally learn to use communication, intellectual abilities, and social emotional skills, but family and community culture influence how they carry out these tasks, so that you're just kind of learning from as you kind of go. Vygotsky is kind of a big one in there. Jerome Bruner is another one. Okay, developmental systems, factors inside the children, nature, and outside the child, nurture, combined and influence developmental patterns, Their own activities, from sleeping and eating patterns to watching TV and playing sports, also influence the development throughout the life cycle. Okay, and then those theorists right there. And the last one is basically, oh, this is not the last one that we already went over, or 7. So here's something to keep in mind. Okay, no single theory can explain like all aspects of a child's development, but these are just ways that you can think about things to make sense of it for yourself. It's probably useful to use multiple of these different ones. So now we're going to get into the ones that I think are really useful talking about these theories, because this overview is kind of, to me, boring. But we'll go to the most commonly ones used in education. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start out by watching. Oh, I don't know why I'm all the way right here. One that's called Bloom's taxonomy. And this kind of talks about the intellectual kind of learning of there. And so here's one of the big ones that they want us to teach you in this class. So we'll watch this video and then we'll discuss it a little bit more.
Bloom's taxonomy, or the revised version that you see here, is really powerful in face-to-face learning, in traditional learning, but it's equally powerful when thinking about online learning. So at the bottom of this pyramid, of this triangle, is the baseline thinking, the kind of remembering, recalling facts. And that's really useful. And it's important for students to learn content at times. But that's only as a springboard to higher kinds of thinking. So as we move up the triangle, you can see the thinking gets more and more complicated. For example, right up the top is creating new knowledge, or designing or building something new. So at a really basic level, this bottom level might be, if we're thinking about design technology, what are the different types of wood? Whereas create might be to design and build a brand new bookshelf. So what does that mean in your particular domain area? What is the activity that you're setting for your students today? At what level is that pitched? And are they ready for that? So are they ready to analyze if they don't yet understand or remember? So it's a great pyramid to keep in your mind when planning your online courses. If you look at your entire week's activities and they're all remember, read this, we'll do a test, read this, we'll do a test. Maybe it's a chance to look a bit further up the pyramid and say, is there something else I could get the students to be doing with this information?
All right, so that was a little bit of explanation of Bloom's taxonomy, right? Where what you're trying to do, particularly, so now since you guys are talking about being a teacher, this is kind of like teaching as a profession. So we're trying to analyze here what the student's doing, right? If you're just doing and taking tests, right, you're only doing like understanding or remembering kind of stuff. Okay. You're not going and applying things and creating things. So like he talked about as well, if you were creating like a bookcase, right, you need to have all of these different other things underneath. So you should be able to have learned all these things. So you remember like what type of screws or nails that are put in there, right? You understand how things go together. You're applying things, facts and rules. If you've ever made something out of wood, like if you don't have supports, it will fall over, right? So you're applying, you're analyzing, you're evaluating it, and then eventually you're creating it. So creating some type of what we call maybe permanent product, right? That you can see, like an app or building something, or that is the highest level of learning that you can get, right? So that's called Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. Something really, really good there. Okay. Here is another one. This is brought out by Eric Erickson. He talks about stages of development. This would be more, you're looking at some of these things more for like early education, as you'd be looking for for things, but he goes all the way down to infancy, and there's different stages in life, and he breaks them down. It's like you can either go a good way or you can kind of go a bad way. Okay, so I'll just hurry and briefly go over these. So infancy, you have trust and mistrust. Okay, you have to trust that there are people around you that are going to feed you, they're going to take care of you, change your diaper, and you tend to trust people, right? And if not, you're going to cry a lot and you're going to mistrust people. So you develop that kind of trust in infancy. Okay. In your early childhood, you got autonomy versus shame and doubt. So autonomy, they put a toilet because that's your toileting phase, that you're learning to do more, right? You're learning to eat by yourself. You're learning to walk, right? But then there's also one about just shame and doubt, that you don't feel like you can do things, right? You can't, you're shameful of going to the bathroom in front of people. I guess, if you're a little kid, right? So there's that early childhood as they're kind of developing through there. Once you get in preschool, it's initiative versus guilt. So initiative means you're taking initiative to do things, try new things. You're willing to fail, right? Which is a good thing. And you're not feeling guilty about failing. Okay. The best, riding a bike is a great example of this, right? You jump on a bike and you're most likely going to fall, right? First off, you're riding a 2-wheel bike. You need to get up and try again, right? And they can do that, right? And if not, you don't feel ashamed or you're worried about what other people are thinking there, okay? School age, you have industry versus inferior. So now you're starting to come to the point of elementary school age, where you have kids that will do, or they can't do something, or they won't do something, right? So one's called a skill deficit, basically meaning we need to teach them this thing and they will do it, and they know how to turn in papers, they know how to write, they know how to do that or they're going to fall through the cracks, right? And they're not doing things. Okay. Then you get into your adolescent phase. So this is where you guys are right now, where you're looking at identity versus role confusion. Okay. You're kind of saying, who am I? What are my likes, my preferences, my dislikes? And you're being okay with yourself, right? You're there, or you're confused about how things work and who you kind of are. So you're really developing your personality. Okay. Young adults, they have two things. They have intimacy versus isolation. So this is the point in time in young adulthood. Are you going to find a partner there, or are you going to isolate from society and be there? There's two different aspects, right? Middle adulthood, this is old people like me. Generative versus stagnation. So generative basically means I'm contributing to society. I'm contributing to future generations. Raising my kids, that kind of stuff. Versus you're just kind of not being productive, that kind of stuff. The last one is maturity. This is like the older retired generation. Ego integrity is what it's called. So basically being happy with what you did in life, and that versus you have a lot of regrets in life. So there's two kind of things. So these are the stages of development that's gone over by Erickson. But really in education, we look at these ones kind of right here as people are kind of growing up, because it makes a lot of sense if you kind of look into some of these things. All right, we're going to jump over now to operant conditioning. So I already told you I'm a behaviorist. And so this is how I analyze a lot of situations here. So operant conditioning came out with B.F. Skinner. This is a picture of B.F. Skinner. But everything is basically controlled by stimulus response stimulus is what it's called, right? So something comes in front of you, like I see some food, or I'm driving down the street and I see a McDonald's sign, okay? And I'm hungry, right? So I'm more likely to go and pull into McDonald's and get something, right? And I'm more likely to do that when I'm hungry, right? So taking it into consideration the environment, how things work, what people's preferences are, like phones. If somebody likes reading, I guess, right? That'd be called positive reinforcement, and being able to motivate people in order to do things. For example, I'm motivated to do to do this job because I get paid for it, for one, and I got some other values there. Gabe, you had a question? Comment?
No, I'm good. I figured it out.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so this kind of goes through the steps where it has reinforcement, and then there's also like punishment, which decreases the likelihood of people to do things, right? So yelling at somebody would be what we call a positive punishment. And then somebody becomes what's called an aversive stimulus, where you don't want to be around the person anymore, right? Or you escape that behavior and go from there. So finding positive relationships there. So that's operant conditioning. Okay, the other big one they want me to go over with you is called Multiple Intelligences by Howard Gardner. So let's watch this little video. I think this is a really kind of cool one because it just talks about the individuality of everybody and their different preferences.
So, when you think of intelligence, you normally think of the one intelligence that most people refer to, and that is intellectual intelligence. And Howard Gardner says there are actually multiple types of intelligence, and I'm going to go through them with this video. Now, the first is called logical mathematical intelligence, and this is basically what you think of when you think of intellectual intelligence. This would be stuff like logic, or if you're good at taking tests, you'll probably have pretty high logical mathematical intelligence. This also has to do a lot with critical thinking and making and reading graphs, as well as organization. If you like to organize your stuff and keep it very organized and are good at organizing it, then you probably have very high logical mathematical intelligence. Now, the second one is called verbal linguistic. And if you have high verbal linguistic intelligence, you are probably good at saying that word. You are good at poems. You are good at rhyming words, finding words that rhyme. You are good at reading and writing. And you're good at learning other languages. You learn them pretty quickly compared to other people. And you're probably great at turning a little tiny story into a huge, fascinating story that can enthrall an entire room. The third is interpersonal. And interpersonal intelligence would be like understanding other people's emotions, understanding what the social etiquette and norms are of this situation. You have to be able to be good at reception to other people's moods and what motivates them. If you are a business administrator and you're good at motivating someone, you probably have pretty high interpersonal intelligence. If you're a good leader or just a manager in general, and you can coordinate work with other people, you are probably really intelligent in this interpersonal field. The fourth is body kinesthetic, which means you are good at handling and maneuvering your own body. You can handle objects skillfully and basically move them around however you want them to, as well as your body. People that are very intelligent in the body kinesthetic field are dancers, actors, soldiers, and even many sports athletes. The fifth is musical intelligence, and this is associated with rhythmic and harmonic music. Being able to interpret sounds, rhythms and tones and pitches, and being able to understand them on a level that most people can't understand. If you're good at this, you can probably compose or at least play an instrument. The next is visual spatial, and this is like basically how well can you visualize something in your mind's eye? How well can you think of something in your mind? And another example of this would be how well can you get through a maze? Can you see it in your mind's eye where you're at in the maze or a cornfield? And Gardner went so far as to say that this could even be used as to judging distances. Or how well can you read a map? And the next type of intelligence is called intrapersonal intelligence. And this is different from interpersonal intelligence. Intrapersonal intelligence is more about how you understand yourself. Are you self-aware? Do you know what feelings you are feeling, what emotions go through your mind when you are in certain situations? How well can you control your thoughts and actions and feelings in general? Do you know your strengths and weaknesses? And the last, which came out a couple years after Howard Gardner came out with his multiple intelligences theory, is called natural intelligence, naturalistic intelligence. And this has to do with being able to recognize stuff in the real world. Basically, flowers and trees and anything that's living. Hunters and fishermen are pretty intelligent in the naturalistic field. So are chefs and botanists that can grow plants. And basically anyone that is learned in any biological science is pretty intelligent in the naturalistic field.
All right. So that talks about Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. Okay. And so I like to look here and say, okay, where are my strengths and maybe where are my weaknesses? Because we all learn differently. And that's the great thing about all of ourselves, right? I mean, some people may be very musically talented. I'm not. That's something I want to work on, right? But I like working with people, there's stuff like that I have better things that I like, right? And so some people are there. Most people do really well that are, as they talked about, logical, mathematical. Those are the ones that seem to do really well in school, right? So school's not necessarily really set up this way, but it needs to be, right? So that's kind of the theory of Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. Okay, the other one, Sigmund Freud came up with this ID, ego, and superego. The best way to kind of describe this is the iceberg thing right here. You have your consciousness, your pre-consciousness, and then your unconscious. And what he says here is that in our consciousness, that's basically we show only two things: our superego, which us being good persons of society, that kind of stuff, trying to obey laws and morality, plus our ego, which is our reality. But then we also have some things under the surface, under our unconscious, which is our kind of our basic instincts. So like our desires and stuff like that. So that kind of interests you can go more into that. The last one that we're going to be talking about, at least I think it is. Oh, yep, it would be the last one. Let me get back to it. Sorry. Is that we talk about quite a bit in education is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it is a pyramid, but what we have here on the very bottom is what we call our basic needs. And so what we're saying is students, they cannot work or learn or whatever unless certain needs are met. Like if you don't have food or shelter or rest or safety or security, you're going to not be able to focus on what you need to focus on, right? Which would be learning, right? But you need to make, and then we also need these psychological needs met, right? Being able to feel belonged or loved, having esteem in yourself. And we want to get everybody to this place, which we call self-actualization, is what Maslow called it. It's just basically you're at harmony with everything that's going on. So all of these needs need to be met in order for us to be able to learn and kind of do those things. Okay, so we're just gonna have a little bit of discussion real quick because this is kind of on your, or it's your lesson 2 assignment, is basically which theory interests you the most and why. Okay, you will have to do some kind of research on there. So why people are putting those things in, I just wanted to jump to here. So you got 2 things. You have your assignment and your quiz this week. Your quiz is 5 questions, and it goes and talks about those theories that we just went over, those ones in detail. So, for example, this one talks about Bloom's taxonomy, stages of development, B.F. Skinner, Gardner multiple intelligences, and Maslow hierarchy of needs. So I would go back and study that if you didn't see it. And then for your assignment, yep, thanks, Taylor, for letting me know. You're going to need to choose one of them, right? So just click one of them and then just write what you've researched about it. So you just need to put in Google, one of those things. Okay, so somebody put the development of maturity, okay? Yeah, so being able to, the one we talked about with the different stages of life. So I like that one. Any other ones that you guys are interested in? They are all right here. So we got the ID, ego, superego, Bloom taxonomy, operant conditioning, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, stages of development, and Gardner's multiple intelligences. Any other thoughts, guys? Okay. Well, if you know what to do, if you have any questions, please contact me. I'm going to stop the recording right here.